Today, we're going to be looking at the Hiboy DK1, which is an entry-level electric dirt bike for kids ages 3 to 10 years old. So in this video, I'm going to be discussing specifically the off-road capabilities of this bike. But if you do need a general overview of the DK1, I did make a video going over the specs, pricing, and my initial impressions, and I've linked that video in the description. So now, let's see how the Hiboy DK1 kids electric dirt bike handles the dirt. So in my initial video on the DK1, I had my daughter ride around our neighborhood and the bike did fantastic. It was whisper quiet, so my neighbors never got annoyed by any noise. It had 3 speed levels, so my daughter never felt intimidated to ride it. It had great battery range, and most importantly, my little one was having a ton of fun riding it around. But what if you don't want to ride around the neighborhood, and you want to take your kid to do some off-roading? How does the Hiboy DK1 perform? Surprisingly well, actually. The first thing to note is that most of us probably don't live next to a dirt field, so you're probably going to have to transport the bike somewhere. But the good part is that the Hiboy only weighs in at 38 pounds, so it's pretty light and it's really easy to lift into a truck. But let's say you don't have a truck. Well, the bike fits really easily into the backseat of a car as well, but just make sure to put a blanket down so you don't mess up the interior. So the DK1 is an entry-level kids electric dirt bike that definitely leans more towards a toy than an off-road racing machine. And something you do need to keep in mind when taking this bike off-road is that this is not a competition level electric dirt bike like the ones from KTM and Honda. Now, does that mean that it can't go off-road? Of course not. Actually, it goes off-road really well, but you have to keep your expectations at a realistic level. I was able to take my daughter riding on some local riding spots, and she had an absolute blast riding around. And the best part is that since it's electric and it's silent, no one came out to complain about riding up and down the road. And that's really where this bike shines. I have a gas-powered dirt bike, and there's nowhere for me to ride within an hour of my house. But with the Hiboy, I was able to take my daughter to dirt roads and little riding areas within 5 to 10 minutes of my house, and I was never worried about upsetting anyone because of excessive noise or destroying the trails. And anybody who would buy us would either smile, wave, or ask about the bike. So far, I've been pleasantly surprised by the Hiboy. It does really good on streets, dirt paths, and dirt roads, and I would be confident to take it to a PB track for my little one to ride around all day. But even though I really like this bike, there are a couple minor weaknesses. First is that the front fork does seem stiff, and even though it has become softer as my daughter's put more miles on the bike, it's still pretty stiff even though she's been riding this bike for about a month or so. And second is that on steeper hills, the bike does struggle a little bit, which does make sense since the max climbing angle is around 10 degrees or so. So once the trail gets steep, the bike doesn't have enough power to go up as quick as it should. But even though there are a couple minor weaknesses, at this price point, it is expected, and I still think for the price the DK1 costs, it's really hard to beat. Overall, I'm extremely happy with the Hiboy DK1. I feel that's a really good bike to get your kids into dirt biking. It's very user-friendly, it provides a ton of fun for your little one, and while this isn't a competition-level dirt bike, it can still have some fun off-road and at your local PB track. And since this bike isn't very expensive, it's a really affordable way to get your child into riding. But most importantly, is that this bike has made great memories for both my little one and myself. And now I'm secretly hoping the Hiboy releases an electric dirt bike for adults, so I can ride with my little one all the time. But if you have any questions about the DK1, please leave them in the comments and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. Thank you so much for watching and have a great one.